on a conference call.
Yeah, I was informed this morning that I had tested positive. It was a PCR test, which was different than the false positive I had before. I don't really have any cardinal signs of the virus right now. I don't have a fever, no loss of taste or smell, no fatigue, no muscle aches. I informed the team this morning at 10 on a Zoom call, and I'm the only person in the whole organization who tested positive on this round. So, the Auburn game's obviously a most important game, and we hated that this situation occurred, but as I've said many times before, you got to be able to deal with disruptions, in this year, and our players have been pretty mature about doing that. Well, we just want to carry on the best we can.
Alabama did deal with disruptions earlier in the season before Saban was able to test negative 3 times and coach that following weekend. Paul Finebaum joins us now, so thankful to have him on the program. And, Paul, what does Saban's absence mean for Alabama?
It will obviously mean a great deal. He's arguably the greatest coach in college football history, Matt, but I don't think it's going to affect the outcome of the game. When we convened a couple of weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, for the Georgia game, there was a real concern that Saban's absence could cost Alabama that win. That was an Alabama team that had not progressed, especially on the defensive side of the ball. This team is playing better than anyone in the country, evidenced by their #1 ranking. And they've already been through this drill before. Steve Sarkisian, who has been a head coach at Washington and at Southern Cal, will take over. They feel comfortable. It's also the middle of the week where the game plan has pretty well been put in, and obviously they know Auburn very well. They lost to Auburn last year at Jordan-Hare Stadium.
Yeah, it's a weird week because it's Thanksgiving week. Perhaps the schedule a little bit all over the place, but just the fact that we've had this before with Alabama this year would lend you to believe that maybe not as significant of a loss this time because they've already been through it before. Sans game day. Want to come now? This news comes out just about 24 hours after that first college football playoff ranking was released. You said it a second ago. Alabama, #1 of the college football playoff rankings for the 19th week, more than twice as many as any other school, averaging over 49 points per game, by far the most of any Power 5 team. Notre Dame second. After starting the season 8-0 for the 4th time over the last 25 seasons, they've scored at least 45 points in 3 of their last 4 games, with 2 of those coming on the road and the other in an overtime thriller over Clemson. Speaking of the Tigers, they get the 3rd spot. They already lost to Notre Dame since the college football playoff began. Listen to this. No team ranked 3rd in the initial rankings even made it to the playoff. They hope to break that trend. The Buckeyes are 4th. After escaping with the win against Indiana, they now set their sights on entering the Big Ten Championship undefeated, with FPI giving them an 87% chance to win their final 3 regular season games. And Texas A&M just outside the all-important top 4. Aggies get back on the field for the first time in 3 weeks Saturday against LSU after having the previous 2 games postponed. So the rest of the top 10 is as follows. Cincinnati has the best shot to make the college football playoff, 36%, that according to the All-State Playoff Predictor. One team noticeably absent, BYU. They started 9-0. Best scoring margin in the FBS, coming at 14th. Their schedule has not been good. That's what's keeping them out. And so, Paul, we take a look at the rankings and some of the teams that are in the top 4, 5, and 6, and then the rest. What was your biggest takeaway from the rankings release last night?
Well, a couple of things, Matt. You mentioned BYU. There has been a hue and cry all over the country today. Why are they so low? Their schedule is the reason. Cincinnati, from the group of 5, can they find a way into the playoffs? It looks like they're not going to play this weekend. That hurts them, even though it wasn't a high-quality game. But their schedule may haunt them a little bit, especially for this reason. They're up against tailwinds from 2 conferences, the ACC and the SEC. The SEC has 3 legitimate shots. We know about Alabama. Even if Alabama were to lose to Florida, they would probably still get in. Florida would get in then too. But if Florida lost, Texas A&M has a reasonable shot. They beat Florida even though they lost to Alabama. And then we have the rematch between Notre Dame and Clemson. The one thing that everyone else has to be hoping for is that Notre Dame loses Friday at Chapel Hill against North Carolina and Mack Brown. That would put them in a very awkward spot, assuming that they don't beat Clemson in the rematch.
I was going to say, because then if they've got the one loss against North Carolina, then they go into the ACC championship game, each with a loss, Clemson and Notre Dame. And then the winner of that you would presume would go to the college football playoff. And finally, Paul, because I know BYU is kind of that feel-good, trendy story. Keep in mind their schedule pre-COVID had a list of Power 5 opponents, including 2 out of the Pac-12, Utah and Arizona State. Should they be punished for the schedule that was completely out of their control because of a 100-year pandemic?
Well, they shouldn't be, but they will be, Matt, because this committee, this 13-member committee, looks at the schedule that they're playing, not the one that they were going to. Like Ohio State, how good a position would they have been in had they gone out to Oregon during week 2 instead? They played Nebraska, which didn't help them at all. But the most important thing to remember, in 2014, the first playoff committee rankings, Mississippi State was number 1. So they were nowhere to be found at the end of that season. It's important to be in the rankings, but it changes dramatically over these next 4 weeks.
Yeah, with all due respect to the college football playoff rankings, at least for the first week, it's a very good TV show, and it brings discussion on SportsCenter and talk radio alike. We've got the final one on December 20th. Paul Finebaum with us this afternoon. Paul, thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
We've got breaking news here on SportsCenter. Diego Maradona, one of the greatest soccer players of all time, no stranger to controversy, has died of cardiac arrest at age 60 in his native Argentina. Nicknamed the Golden Boy, Maradona led Argentina to the 1986 World Cup title, helped Napoli win 2 Italian league titles, and was named by FIFA, along with Pele, one of the best players in history. However, he also battled drug and alcohol addiction, faced financial difficulties, and ran afoul of FIFA for his on-field behavior and performance-enhancing drug use. He underwent surgery earlier this month for a subdural hematoma. Maradona played in 4 World Cups with Argentina, helping lead the country to its second title in 1986. He is one of 3 Argentines to win the Golden Ball at the World Cup. Maradona also has 9 club titles to a resume. Again, he was 60 years old.
Some starting quarterback news in the NFL. It's going to be Mike Glennon getting the start for the Jaguars, replacing rookie Jake Luton. It'll be Glennon's first start in 3 years. Brandon Allen, also starting news. He's going to take over for Joe Burrow in Cincinnati, who was out for the season after blowing out his knee last week. This was first reported by the NFL Network and confirmed by ESPN.
And the Browns said today that another player's tested positive for coronavirus, the 4th player in the last 2 weeks. Myles Garrett missed last week's game after being put on the reserve COVID list. He's going to stay there for Sunday's game at Jacksonville. The Browns shut down their facility for the 3rd time in as many weeks. And sort of keeping in that vein, we're supposed to be getting a big one tomorrow night, right? Ravens, Steelers set to play in the Thanksgiving nightcap, but it's been a tough week for the boys in Baltimore. 5 players, 4 staffers testing positive for COVID-19 this week, including the top 2 backs on the depth chart in J.K. Dobbins and Mark Ingram, and 2 defensive starters, outside linebacker Pernell McPhee and nose tackle, forcing the team to go virtual after suspending practice just yesterday. So with that, we're going to bring in our NFL insider, Dan Graziano. What would need to happen for tomorrow?